loose again. Edwards off the running. Puts it back down to Edwards. They hand it off to Johnson. Boise State has won. Right now, and they take a downfield shot. And the catch is made. It's Ryan Williams. Still sitting free. Touchdown.
All right, everybody, welcome in to another edition of the Gridiron Uncensored podcast. And clearly, it's time for preview season, guys. We've done all the teams. We've looked at all of the rosters. Trevor, ACC, you're on deck. Right. We're going to give you our thoughts on contenders, either posers or pretenders, whatever we want to call it. Trevor was dipping into the 90s earlier today, dropping that lingo. I respect it, of course. And then, of course, maybe some dark horse discussion, conference championship game, who we think's going, and maybe how many teams can get in from each conference to the playoffs. So that's all things we're going to talk about, just kind of free flowing. And Trev, I mean, this is an interesting conference. I think it feels pretty clear cut who's going to be at the top. But there's a couple that people might surprise when I say maybe a dark horse, but I'm curious.
Well, I think it's safe to. I think it's safe to say that no one's going to be surprised if Clemson makes the championship. Now, they will be surprised if Clemson doesn't make the championship. But yeah, I think we are all in agreement that I think everyone actually is in agreement that Clemson should be, and by far and away, the best overall team in the ACC this year.
Yeah, I think everybody would agree with that. Just based on returning production. You look at the quarterback play with Klubnik coming back,
right?
The wide receiver room just all the talent, and then even defensively up front, just all the pieces that they have there show that we've talked about on their preview. And again, all these teams we've talked about. So if you're a fan of the ACC, go find your team on our YouTube page or on any podcast platform you listen to. But it's really a title or bust type season for Clemson.
100%.
I know there's question marks, across the social media about, last year they couldn't finish, they couldn't win the biggest games, but they still played in the ACC title and they still won it. They had a rebound. So it's one of those, can they live up to the expectations? Can Dabo have them on the right page when they play a team like LSU first? Can they get over that? Can they blow them out of the water early and set a tone? And then, obviously the loss to South Carolina and Texas last year. Those are games. Those were close. You let them get away. The run game kind of ate you up at the end. But when you look at the 25 schedule for Clemson, it's an early start. You got to be ready. Georgia Tech's on the line. They're a team that we're excited about. There's teams on here that can trip you up. You just got to stay out of your own way, Trev.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. 100%. Look, Clemson, I think they have maybe two possibilities on their schedule that is going to potentially trip them up. But outside of that, any other loss, I will be surprised. And any other loss possibly might just put them right out of the championship game. Doesn't necessarily put them out of the talk of going to the playoff, but the championship game might be out.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of other contenders on here in my mind that, obviously SMU is up there again. You played them last year in the conference title game. But inside the conference, it would be them and Georgia Tech as the main ones in Louisville. But then outside of that, it's the two SEC teams that you have to play of South Carolina, which they have some retooling, but they're still, I think, a loaded roster. And then, of course, LSU, which is another one that's got national title aspirations this year. Right. So even if you lose those two out-of-conference games, which would suck, and I know you guys would not be happy with it, inside the conference, you could lose one and still play for the title game and get into the playoffs. So, I mean, you could have a 9-3 year, okay, and yeah, it's not favorable, but, I mean, still, you're playing for the ACC title game, and you're going to the playoffs, in my opinion. But it all remains to be seen. Tell us what you guys think on that schedule. Trev, we mentioned another team, Louisville. That's the one that I think you're pretty excited about, right?
I'm excited about them. Yep.
Would you call them a contender? I have them. I've got clear-cut contenders being like straight up Clemson.
Clemson's the only clear cut for me this season. Now that being said, it doesn't necessarily discount Louisville because I really do like Louisville's roster. I think that it has not been talked about enough that I think Miller Moss could have a rebound year. I just don't think that his situation in SC was a good situation for him. I think he's a talented quarterback, and I think Braum is gonna bring the best out in him. And he's got a lot. He's has decent talent around him, in my opinion, to make a real splash in the ACC. And if I'm being honest, their schedule is very favorable. Don't get me wrong; they have to play Miami, they have to play Clemson, and they have to play SMU and Kentucky. However, I think Kentucky is beatable. I think SMU is a beatable team, even though it's going to be in Dallas when they have to play them. But I think Louisville is definitely up there for me as far as being the team to play Clemson. Now, they have to play Clemson this season, and therein lies where Georgia Tech and Louisville both have to play Clemson.
Yeah.
So, I mean, both of those teams we're talking as contenders, right? So we're also talking about them as possible trip-ups for Clemson. There's one team that, out of my contenders at least, that I don't see Clemson on the schedule. I only see Georgia Tech and Miami really as a potential problem for them if they perform the way I think they can and potentially stay healthy. Is Pitt. Pitt doesn't have Clemson on their schedule. They have Notre Dame, Georgia Tech, and Miami right at the end of the season, which, don't get me wrong, sucks. It really does suck. But Pitt is a team that they do have to play Louisville and as well. So they have 4 games that are really a problem child, in my opinion, for Pitt. And then Clemson. But that being said, Georgia Tech looks great too. I like their schedule. I like the way that kind of shapes up for them. Georgia Tech probably has the easiest route outside of Clemson and Pitt. Not excluding the non-conference games, but
sure.
But that's kind of where I'm at with it right now. Is there's about 4 or 5 teams that I can squeeze in there to play Clemson, but right now I am looking at 2 that would be in the mix, in my opinion, to play Clemson.
Yeah, when I look again, to me, Clemson's a clear-cut favorite to be at the top there. Georgia Tech's one, we mentioned them. Their schedule does line up, even out of conference, to make a playoff run. Even if you just lose to Georgia and Clemson, and you win out the rest of your games, which I think they have the ability to, they could still go to the ACC championship game, and it's very hard to beat the same team twice. So if you're Clemson, you beat them in the regular season, you better watch out if you see them again in the ACC title game. And that's honestly a possibility that I see. And we'll talk about title game and stuff all at the end. Georgia Tech, like I mentioned, that's one. Louisville is one that I think can really improve. I like their targets. I like their wide receiver core, the running backs. I think Miller Moss is good. I agree that he got a bad rap at USC, and they've had their own problems, recently. I think that really Miami is the other one that, for me, when I look at this squad, the whole roster, they're close to the top end of the other.
That's fair.
Group.
That's fair.
To me, there's a clear-cut contender of Clemson, and then there's 4 teams. I got Georgia Tech, Louisville, Miami, and SMU as the ones that can maybe push into that next echelon.
And I flip-flopped yours. I agree with you on all of them, but I flip-flopped SMU and Pitt.
Yeah.
Because I think Pitt has the better quarterback if he stays healthy.
Yeah, that's a great.
I'm not saying anything, but yeah.
What he did before he got injured, just impressive. Putting Pitt in the top 25, if I'm not mistaken. That was a very tight game against Clemson last year. Maybe if I'm remembering correctly. That damn schedule's frozen here. You can't pull it up. but I believe it was Klubnik ran it 60 yards down the middle of the field to really win that game. There we go. Now it's coming up. Double checking. Yes, it was. It was. So that's one of those that just man, this Pitt team can be something with him at quarterback. But again, when I look at Miami's schedule and the talent that they have, I know everybody will crap on Carson Beck, whatever. He kind of had a rough year last year, but he had a lot of drops with the receivers too.
Yeah, it wasn't it's never just the quarterback.
And I think it's almost, this feels like maybe a Penn State team because people trash on the coach and they trash on the quarterback. Well, what do they do with Penn State? You trash on Aller and you trash on James Franklin. So to me, it's almost
what did they do at Penn State? They never really win the big games, but I mean, there's that.
And that's where we're at with Miami is they get over the hump.
Yeah.
Last year they were so close. You had the top rated quarterback in the country. You had the number one offense, and you didn't go to the freaking playoffs. That's goddamn embarrassing, guys.
Yeah.
Miami, if I'm gonna put stock in you this year, which I kind of am, you better not let me down because I've been burned once or twice. All right. Looking at you, NC State. You dirty
NC State. You're in the doghouse for me, man.
You're in the house, but. But I think Miami can push it. I really think Louisville has a chance. I think Georgia Tech, with Haynes King, the offensive weapons that they have, defensive coordinator, really, I want to see them dial up more find a way to get more turnovers to close out. But when you look at how they finished last year, I mean, they got hosed against Georgia. I'm tired of pretending like they didn't. People say it all the time. Really, their biggest letdown was the Virginia Tech game, and Haynes King was hurt. When you look at the rest, okay, Notre Dame beat you, sure. The Louisville game, it was close. It kind of got, the score looks out of hand. And then the Syracuse game. You dial it in, you figure shit out. This is a team that has returning production and the ability to get up there, Trev. And then outside of that, SMU is the other one that, I kind of have. Again, they've got veteran quarterback coming back. How does he shake off that last performance? It sucks going down like that. 3 picks in the playoffs. And you're just sitting on that all off season.
Yeah.
You're just hurting.
You're not stewing. I know is the word I'd use.
Yeah, that's right. Stewing. Thank you. Not hurting, but I mean, maybe you are.
Maybe you are hurting.
God damn it, everything's my whole life. But when I look at SMU's schedule, you start off, and the out of conference sucks. You do play Baylor, which is a team that I think we're all high on, and then TCU, which has an offense. But I'm curious about their running game. I still, last year was so bad, and then defensively they do have some guys that people are ranking them. There's some hype with that TCU team. But then you do play Clemson, you do play Miami, you play Louisville. So I mean, there's room for them to make a run again. It's just, how does Jennings come off of that?
Yeah.
That tough playoff loss, and then really, a couple of guys lost. Talent lost 4 of your top wideouts, but the offensive line I think is going to be just good enough. Like they were last year. The tight ends were really strong. You get RJ Maryland back, which is one of my favorite tight ends in the country. So there's these teams are all in that potential range.
Right.
I need to see how they navigate the schedule and with the changes they have. But I tend to levitate towards the guys with returning production and veteran quarterbacks, which I know some people disagree with that method of thinking, but that's just, I feel confident. I'm more comfortable with that.
Yeah.
Trev, what do you feel like? So you got Pitt for sure. You're a big Pitt fan right now.
I'm a big Pitt guy. Like I think there's an avenue for Pitt, Georgia Tech, Louisville, all to make a case, maybe even Miami to make a case for the championship. But I think I'll save that for the end. But yes, those 4 teams are my favorites to be in contention and legitimately pressure Clemson. And three of those teams, I think, play Clemson, or 2 of those teams play Clemson. So it'll be nice to kind of gauge it. I mean, early on, Georgia Tech gets them. Third week of the season, they get Clemson. So we're going to find out pretty early on how Georgia Tech kind of stacks up right out the gate, kind of.
Who are some, maybe dark horses for you, or your pretenders, if you will, your posers that you mentioned earlier? Who's somebody that, okay, they got the talent. Let's do that first before dark horses.
Right.
They've got the talent. We maybe mention them, but hey, they're just not going to cut it.
Let's see. Okay, so I would probably say that.
Are you going to say it?
The definite pretender in the ACC conference that may finish last in the ACC is probably going to be Florida State. I'm kidding. I'm sorry. I'm pandering to certain people. But no, I don't think that I think Florida State will be better, but I don't think that they're going to be where they want to be. I think the dark horse for me this season will probably be between. It's not. I guess I can't pick SMU because they're kind of in that middling. They're kind of in between that somewhere. But the dark horse for me, because of the season that they had last season, would be probably Duke and Virginia Tech would be one of my two dark horses. I think those two teams are set up very nicely. I think they have a lot of good talent. They did decent in the transfer portal. If I was to have to pick one, it would probably be Duke to be the dark horse for this conference. I just like them a little bit better, how their roster is made up. But we'll I'm really curious to see. And then pretenders, I don't think there's an actual pretender in the ACC technically. I think there's teams that are clear cut, probably just playing for a bowl, just trying to get to a bowl game. And there's teams that are like, okay, well, we have higher aspirations this year. And I think there's like that kind of dividing line almost. And you kind of have SMU and maybe even you could say Florida State, because they always have aspirations to be better than what they were last season. I mean, it's hard to be worse, to be honest, but but yeah, I would say that I don't want to say any pretenders, because I don't think that any of these teams are pretenders necessarily. I just think there are some that are, if we're being realistic, that there are teams that are shooting for bowls, just bowl games in general, 6 wins, 7 wins.
Yeah.
And then there's teams that are trying to get 9-10 wins and get to the ACC championship and then ultimately the playoff. And I think there's about 5 teams that fit that bill, and then the rest then there's the rest.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. My biggest dark horse would be Duke. I like the Mensa addition. I like what their roster is in general. When I was previewing them again, with you and Trevor, you guys can go back and look at those. The more I talked about them, the more I was like, okay, I can buy into this team, and their over under is only 6.5. So I think they fit that bill of a dark horse. Like some of these, again, you mentioned, like, they're kind of in that tier of, okay, these guys look like contenders, but they're like, I can't call them a dark horse because everybody's kind of talking about it. So, but Duke to me fits that bill. They bring back offensive linemen. Yeah, they had a horrible offense last year, 108th in the country. And the defense, I think, was good, but they were let down by the offense. So if that offense can really get going, and Mensa is the guy that most of us think he is, okay, this is a team you need to watch out for. And I think even if they don't make it to the championship game, which it's that's quite an ask, I think they can really knock somebody's freaking schedule off or their season. That really take them out.
It'll be upset city, and I think Mensa by the end of the season will be considered one of the best transfer portal pickups of the offseason.
Oh yeah, it was a huge get, absolutely huge. One of our friends, he says, he's got them as the number 10 quarterback in the country when he looks at them. So that's like, okay. I mean, I liked his game at Tulane, and look, he plays Tulane again, which is crazy. The Illinois game early
kind of works out.
But when you look at the conference schedule for Duke, that's kind of where I get going with it. Yes, they do play at Clemson, but before that, it's Georgia Tech with that bye week situation that you don't really care for. But I think it can be beneficial depending on how the preparation is for the team.
Right.
When you look at the rest of it, NC State, which is a team that can be solid. We've talked about that. Nobody's talking about them. That usually means they're going to have a year where they surprise. Syracuse, I think, is down. They're just too much overturn. Cal is another one. They're doing a lot of changes. They've lost a ton of production. UConn is a good team in the out of conference, but we're not talking about out of conference right now. Virginia, they've got pieces on the offense, but defensively, I'm still questioning them. North Carolina has a lot of changes. And so that, to me, there's a clear path for them to make it. And I like them to win a lot of games this year. I just, how much does that offense really change is a question.
I mean, honestly, for Duke, I'm circling the Illinois game. When Illinois comes into Durham, that is your proving ground right there, and that will put you on the map countrywide when you play them. Because if you beat them and you beat them handily, then one, I'll applaud you, and two, I think that will put you into a different stratosphere of people saying that you could actually make the playoff if you go undefeated all the way to Clemson, or even all the way to Georgia Tech, and you drop Georgia Tech and Clemson, but you win the rest of them. I mean, you may not make the ACC championship, but you might put yourself in a position where you could be the second team in the ACC to get a playoff spot.
Very true, man. So a very interesting setup here in the ACC. We're curious to hear what you guys have to say. Again, Pretenders, I agree. I don't really have that on this one.
Mm-hmm.
I do think Florida State's going to have a turnaround. I wouldn't call them a pretender.
And when we talk about pretenders, I don't want people to get hung up on the pretender word. I would say, I was thinking about this before the show, and I didn't mention it, but I think the better way of putting it is overhyped. Yeah, maybe an overhyped team, not necessarily a pretender, but someone that is getting put on a pedestal that the roster and the makeup of the team and the schedule doesn't match where they're being put at as far as like where people are expecting them to be.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point, because look, some of you guys get really freaking sensitive. Okay. Yeah. Jesus Christ. You guys get so fucking sensitive. And we're the Gridiron Uncensored, all right? We're just having fun talking, man. We're not trying to be assholes. We're just here to talk football. We're fans like you are, but God,
I have my moments of wanting to be an asshole, but I'm just saying
we try to keep it all right. But it just, some of you might get it. I don't know. But yeah, I do think pretender has even more of a negative connotation. Like, okay, everybody's saying, but they're gonna suck ass. That's not necessarily what we mean. It's hey, like Trevor said, they've got pieces. People are talking about them, but between schedule and something that maybe we don't like, they're just not gonna hit. I don't know if I have one in the ACC this year. There's that little group outside of Clemson that we've already mentioned that feels like they can all kind of push. But we'll see. It all remains to be seen.
Yeah, I don't necessarily have one for ACC either.
Yeah, well, I'll talk shit about the Big Ten when we get there, because I've got one in my mind. They've already pissed me off, and I've already pissed them
off. And we're just gonna go all in.
Absolutely. So make sure you tune in for that one. But Trev, all right, we talked about kind of who we're looking at.
Yep.
Virginia might be one other team that again offensively could push. Friend of ours.
They would be more of a surprise team.
They'd be a surprise
out from left field type of team.
And I feel like that's not going to happen here. That's more of a Big 12 thing. Especially after last year. We'll leave that to the Big 12. Outside of that, guys, North Carolina, we'll see what happens. NC State, we got to. I think you're like another year out. Show me some more. But guys, let us know what you're thinking. Who's the dark horse for you? Maybe contenders for you that maybe we didn't mention, somebody you've got your eyes on. We'd love to hear it in the comments. Trev, let's talk conference championship prediction.
Yep.
Who are you going with?
I'm sticking with I don't know if you guys caught it, but we were on Updog and we did talk ACC. So I'm going to stick true to what I said on their show, and I'm going Clemson and Pitt for the ACC championship.
I respect that pick. I really do. I mean, that's because it's so easy to be chalk, and just straight up, okay, it's the top. But Pitt has the opportunity, if they can stay healthy, to really, really get some momentum going. We'll see. It's an interesting one. I think Clemson's obviously the easy Okay, they just look at what they have.
Who you pairing with Clemson, kind of thing.
And I'm with you on that. I'm going Clemson for sure, and I'm going to take Georgia Tech out of that next group.
That's a good pick. I mean, I don't hate that pick at all. Honestly, that's a good solid pick.
When Miami is really the other one that I'm kind of split between with them.
Mm-hmm.
I think, man, it's tough. I do think Miami beats Notre Dame out the block. Florida's going to be a tough one, but the Miami schedule, man, it kind of talks to me. So I don't know. I think I'm going to stick with Georgia Tech. I like what they have. I like their quarterback situation, like all these things. So I'm going to go with Georgia Tech, Clemson. I still think Clemson will be the winner of the championship game.
With regards to Miami, though, I just feel like I need to be able to see them be consistent just for one season.
Yeah,
I just need
to lay into that trust-wise.
Yeah, it's hard to be trustworthy, especially with you starting your season out with Notre Dame. And honestly, I'm on the opposite side. I think they actually lose that game. So we'll just kind of see how that plays out in the beginning of the season. But you got. Hey, I'm gonna write this down because I keep forgetting to write down stuff.
Yeah, I got to as well for graphical issues and shit like that. So again, you had Pitt
and Clemson,
and I had Clemson, Georgia Tech.
Yep.
And that leads us into kind of our last question on this episode, Trev. How many teams are going to get in from the ACC to the playoffs? And we talked about it with the Updog guys, and it's kind of a hard question. Like it's
surprisingly hard, actually.
One. Some people are only saying one, just the conference champion.
Man, I don't know. I think obviously the conference champions getting in. That's an obvious one. So I think there's a good argument to be made for two. Now, with that being said, if the conference championship is a dog walk, if the other team gets dog walked by Clemson, you may actually only see one. Yeah. So, but I'm going to still stick with my answer that I did when we talked about this before, and stick with 2. I think 2 is a decent number. I think that's an accurate number. I think there's a definite possibility that if Miami doesn't make the conference championship, that they have a good enough record and it's a math. With this stuff, it's a math thing. So can you climb high enough in the rankings before you take that late loss to potentially stay in the top 12, but not necessarily in your AC in the championship, to leapfrog over the team that loses in the championship? It's a crazy kind of hot mess. But I think there's going to be 2. Whether it's the 2 that go to the ACC championship game, I don't know. I would venture to say that depending on the record, it could be the 2 that go to the chip. But it's going to be Clemson, and I'd like to say that it's probably going to be Miami because they're going to be sitting there outside looking in. They've lost one too many games or something, but they're high enough in ranking where the team that plays Clemson loses, and then they leapfrog them or something along those lines.
Yeah, I think with Georgia Tech. So I've got Georgia Tech going into the conference championship game,
right?
But there's a very good chance that they go into that game with 2 losses, one to Clemson and one to Georgia. If you lose another one to Georgia, you're out. So that to me leaves Clemson and then Miami, like you said, sitting on the outside looking in. I think they do beat Notre Dame, and that keeps them around. I could see them, maybe dropping to Florida, and then a stupid game somewhere in the ACC that they shouldn't.
Right.
Maybe Virginia Tech late, somebody gets them, or Pitt if they're still healthy, takes them out. But it better be a close loss because you'll see what happened last year, and you get bumped out. You cannot have that again if you're Miami. So I'm going to go 2. I do think Miami slides in, some backdoor shit, but it's going to be interesting. It's going to be really interesting. Let us know what you guys think, and really tell us your predictions. We'd love to hear it. Hit us in the comments, subscribe, all that good stuff. Trev, anything else on the ACC, man?
No, I think it'll be a fun season for the ACC, but like we said, I think it's pretty much cut and dry that you got to pop. I'd say probably about top 6 teams, and then the rest, honestly, just trying to make sure that they get to themselves to a bowl game. Now, that being said, I do think that ACC will probably have the most teams in a bowl. I think they will end up having like a lot. I think they will have a lot of their teams in bowl games. But
I can see a lot of bowl teams.
I think there's plenty of bowl teams. I just don't think there's a lot of upper echelon. So I'm thinking like 4 or 5 teams that could really contend, but that's about it.
All right, guys. Again, let us know what you think. We'll see you in the comments. Have a good one.
Take it easy.